The Way of the Good Lion, Book 1, Out of the Woodland, Chapter 3, Pigs and Lions. Well, in this chapter, I aim to answer the question that was asked of me after Chapter 1, which was, when will William Strongbadger stop Lionel Lionsmane? And that's a bit of a tough question to answer because, of course, Lionel Lionsmane was the rich, wealthy, nicely dressed lion that came into William Strongbadger's church and collected tithes. This was a regular occurrence, and William hadn't thought much of it until he was required to pay a tithe of his silver and realized that he should have been using his funds for the work of God, and yet everybody was telling him that giving money to the lions was the work of God, was the will of God, and he just couldn't think of how that was to be. Anyways, so answering that question is going to be a little difficult, but I will aim to resolve this portion of the problem. I think as you notice as we go through this book, it would be a perfectly fine time to explain that this is the first book of the Way of the Good Lion series, and there are going to be many books hereafter. I believe there's 6 or 7 in my mind with regards to this, and of course we will adapt them and expand them as we go. But to start, we come to this one, which is Out of the Woodland. And so you may wonder, what is that referring to? Is something going to come out of the woodland, or is this a story about William Strongbadger leaving the woodland? And well, I guess it would be spoilers to say it's the latter, so we shall say it is indeed the latter. This is the story, the first book of The Way of the Good Lion, and William Strongbadger in this book is going to come to the decision and the conclusion that he must leave the woodland. And so we are going to come across a series of trials, series of questions. The first question, of course, was, should the church support the lions? Should the church stand unequivocally with the lions? The answer is no. People will say that they are still God's creatures, and of course that is true, but his special nation, his covenant people, is indeed the church, not a specific group. There is neither lion nor pig in the church, as we will learn. Regardless, that's the first question and trouble that William comes to, identifying corruption that is within the doctrines of the church. And so in this third chapter, we will put a close to that one, and we'll move on to another one. So this title of the chapter is Pigs and Lions. Well, that Sunday afternoon, still the same Sunday, it ended fairly well, and William Strongbadger went to bed. He woke up the next day on a Monday, and it was no longer the Good Lion's Day, the day of worship and rest. It was time to get out there and back to work at Alfred Hampson's blacksmith shop. So he went there, and he decided that on his breaks again, he was going to forge for himself another dagger. And this time he was trying to carve the handle in the shape of a lion head, because he was so happy to have a friend lion, Luke Lionsmane, that he was now saved. And so he started working on that. I think it was a 2-day process last time, so it'll take him 2 days to do that again. On the way home, he made sure to stop by where Ribbit lived and explain to Ribbit and his siblings that his papa, or his father, Thomas Strongbadger, had extended the invitation for Ribbit and his brothers and sisters to come to church this coming Sunday, and then that they would partake of the lunch, the feast that would happen after the service. And they would get to keep any of the leftovers, as well as anybody else who is less fortunate than the rest of the wealthy inhabitants of the woodland in the church. And so William Strongbadger had a lovely conversation with Ribbit, and then he went on his way to find Luke Lionsmane. They would spend a lot of time together, and in fact, we've decided that Luke Lionsmane is probably going to be a secondary character throughout the entire series, or at least as long as... Never mind. And so he's talking to him, and they start talking about how Luke Lionsmane started to follow the way of the good lion. We had explained that he had come to that conclusion. The scales fell off his eyes, and he came to the truth. But now this is time for us to expand as to how indeed he did that. We know that he was particular to the New Testament writings of the Good Lion, of the Way book. But now, when he had first trashed Alfred Hampson's shop by throwing stones at it, and William Strongbadger had broken a window, and Luke Lionsmane, you know the story, Luke Lionsmane, he took off running, pouncing, sprinting away. And before that, the two were, I guess, I don't know if they were really strong friends, but they were acquaintances. And Luke Lionsmane, of course, he was a lion. Everybody looked up to lions. Everybody loved lions. So William Strongbadger had wanted to hang out with him. And, well, that didn't go over so well because Luke Lionsmane, he wasn't a great guy before he knew the good lion. So after he had come home, he had ran home to his parents, who still had good morals. The lions were not a particularly immoral type. They still had the law that was written to Moses, who was the prophet lion of old, and spoke of the good lion's coming. He said that there would be one who would come after me, and establish new covenants and all such things. So they were still creatures of good morals, and they told Luke Lionsmane that what he had done was indeed wrong, and he wondered as to why. And this is where his conversation with the Lord started to begin, because he wondered, why is it wrong? Why is it wrong for him, a lion, a chosen true critter of the true lion? Why is it wrong for him to break the window of some pig's shop? If he was a lion, if he was to inherit the riches of all other critters, if he was to inherit the entire earth, if he was to rule and reign with the entire earth, and that all knees would bow before him, a lion, because that is what people believe and teach, is that the lions are the ones who will rule the earth, and the lions are the one who will receive praise and alms from all the peoples. Anyways, if that was the truth, why was it wrong for him to do things like that? Shouldn't he, a king, do whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted? And so that had him looking into the law itself, reading the Old Testament, the old way book, if you will, reading those things, reading about the 10 Commandments that the true lion had given. And in there he found that justification by these laws was truly impossible. It was very clear in the writings. Although, yes, it seemed like a do not do this, a do not do that, it was very clear to him that the words were saying that sacrifice was not desired, but mercy was desired. A new heart was supposed to be created, and that the people of the lions were actually going to be completely cut off and replaced by the remnant of the lions, of the house of the lions, and that this remnant will be full of other creatures. He started realizing this not from the New Testament, but from the Old Testament, reading things like from Isaiah and Jeremiah and Ezekiel and seeing the truths of this. Well, that is when the spirit of the good lion, from reading the Torah, from reading the Old Testament, the spirit of the good lion fell upon him. And then he was empowered to go and look at the good lion, the appearing, the advent of the good lion himself. When he came as a lion 2,000 years ago, and he started to read those writings, and the spirit of the good lion continued to fall upon him. And that is how Luke Lionsmane was born again, from reading the Bible. That is just a wonderful way to have that happen. And the Lord surely does do that, even in our own days. Well, he explained that all to William Strongbadger, who was so excited to hear this tale. What an amazing testimony of the power of God through the scriptures and through, indeed, his people, the lions throughout history. And now, grafted into that lionship, all other creatures. And that was something very interesting, was Luke Lionsmane perspective on history. He taught William Strongbadger that Father Abraham, you remember the tune, he was the first of the good lion's people, in a sense, right? But Abraham was brought out of pigs. He lived in a pagan, pig-filled nation, and it was God who separated him, God who chose him. It wasn't anything to do with himself or his kind or anything like that. It all had to do with the fact that the good lion himself had selected Abraham. And that means whoever the good lion selects, whether they be a pig or a lion, that was the chosen true personhood, the critter of God. And so those stories were wonderful for William to hear. And with that, he explained to Luke Lionsmane his plan about making things to sell, to have a productive lifestyle, to be able to earn money, not a bad thing to do, to be able to give alms to the poor people in their community. He didn't want to see anybody be poor, and so he would continue this. So the next day, William Strongbadger, well, he finished his dagger, of course. He carved the handle that night, just like last before, a lovely little lion's head, and then finished forging the blade and attached it all together. And then after work the next day, he went to the market again. And he thought to himself that he would find that same old muskrat that had bought the dagger for 3 silver coins. Well, the muskrat wasn't there that day. And he looked around, and nobody else was really selling canes or weaponry or anything like that. And Richard, I almost said Richard Alfredson. Sorry, Alfred Hampson, the pig with a blacksmith shop. He wasn't really keen on selling too much weapons because that didn't really happen very much in the woodland, where you need weaponry and whatnot. So nobody seemed interested in this dagger, and so William Strongbadger went home feeling a little dejected, unable to sell his dagger at the time. But he figured he'd go back to the market the next day to find the muskrat, and the muskrat was there, which is great. But when he went there, the muskrat himself still had the frog head dagger that William had made the previous week. You see, in order for the muskrat to make any coins off this dagger, he would have to sell it. He had hoped to sell it perhaps for 3 to break even, or 4 silver coins to make a little bit of a profit, maybe 3 silver coins and a copper dime, something like that. But he hadn't sold it. Nobody seemed to really want a dagger, and anybody who did could find one, and so there wasn't really much of a market. And so with that, the muskrat, he was not willing to purchase the second dagger. Even though it was beautiful, it was even nicer than the first one, a smoother blade with a nicer handle with the lion's mane and everything. He wasn't willing to buy that one. So William he had this beautiful dagger, but he couldn't sell it. So he ended up giving it to Luke Lionsmane, who then had a wonderful idea. And he said to William Strongbadger, if you're wanting to make money, I could teach a sword fighting class. A sword fighting class? William asked. Yeah, well, we lions, we're trained in how to handle swords, so we know when to fight and we're ready to go. I don't think you are, right? No, none of us are. William Strongbadger said that he was never taught any sword fighting lessons at all. In fact, he didn't know how to fight, didn't know what fighting looked like or anything like that. He had seen lions fight, of course, but he himself, he wasn't skilled with a weapon. He could make them, but he couldn't use them. And so with that, they crafted a plan that they would invite all the neighborhood kids for Saturday, which was the Lions' Sabbath, just before church, which was Sunday, the day after. On Saturday, they would have a sword fighting lessons class down by the creek. There's a lovely little field, and they would all get together, and Luke Lionsmane and William Strongbadger would work hard throughout the week to make wooden swords, training swords, and they'd all teach the kids how to sword fight, and it would be a good time. And what they would do is after a few classes, so let's say they did one class every week on Saturdays, after a few classes, by then, William Strongbadger would have made quite a few daggers and quite a few swords, and then what they could do with that is after the classes, then they could sell the swords to the kids for, let's say, 5 pieces of silver each. And so if they got 10 kids and 5 pieces of silver, that would be 50 pieces of silver. Of course, they would have to make 10 swords, and they'd have to teach all the kids how to use the swords, but it sounded like a really fun time and a very neat way to do it. And so that was the plan. That's what they were planning on doing. Well, with that, William Strongbadger would work overtime at Alfred Hampson's blacksmith shop, because now he was going to need a lot of extra steel, and he was going to need a lot of extra time on the anvil and in the forge to make a sword. You'd take a stick of steel, you'd heat it up, and you'd hammer it down. Hammer, 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 flip it over. Hammer, 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 ting, 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 to break it down so that it wasn't just one piece of steel. You could do many. You could fold it over again to hammer it down, fold it, hammer it, fold it, hammer it, and slowly, every single fold, every single time you hammered it down, heated it up, cooled it down, all that kind of stuff, the steel was getting stronger so that it could actually be a sword. Well, of course, at first, all they would need to do is make wooden swords, and that was pretty easy. You know that William Strongbadger was great at carving. He would find sticks from the ravine, and then would carve them and make them nice, either straight shafts, maybe they could tie a hilt to it, and it was just a great time of him and Luke Lionsmane doing it. But this is a chapter called Pigs and Lions, and I had told you at the beginning that we would kind of solve the problem, or at least put a little bit of a closed bookend on the issue of Lionel Lionson. Lionel Lionson, because Luke Lionsmane was not related to Lionel Lionson, but Lionel Lionson. So, chapter title called Pigs and Lions. So, of course, if Lionel Lionson is going to be in this, he's got to meet the one pig that we do know, Alfred Hampson. You know that Alfred Hampson was a lovely pig man with a big black beard, right? And he went to William Strongbadger's church as well. He was a follower of the Good Lion and a hard-working pig at that. But Lionel Lionmane, as well as 2 other of his friends, let's call them Liaf and Lugain. 2 other tall lions with long flowing robes and copper crowns on their heads. They showed up. William Strongbadger was working the forge at the time, hammering away on something that it was during company hours, work time, and so he was working on repairing a wheel for a cart of one of the merchants who had dropped off the wheel. It was one of the spokes was popping out and the rim had come undone, and so they were going to reforge the rim and put the spoke back in. So he's working on this wheel. There he goes, William Strongbadger, working hard at it, working well at it. And of course it was a nice hot day, and the forge was going. Alfred Hampson was working on a steel beam, a big steel beam that he was crafting together, which was going to be used for a construction project somewhere in the village. That part is a little bit irrelevant. Anyways, it was a hot day, and the forge was going, and that's when Lionel Lionmane walked up to the blacksmith shop, and he and his friends, Liaf and Lugain, and they clunked down 3 swords. Tink, tink, tink. Well, if I do say so, said Lionel Lionmane. Alfred Hampson, we brought our swords. You see, we're swordsmen. Our swords are busted up and they need sharpening, and you're going to do it pronto for us, right, Oinkster? Well, he called him Oinkster in a bit of a derogatory way. Sure smells like bacon, doesn't it? He said to Alfred Hampson. And of course, you can imagine it being a hot shop and Alfred Hampson being a pig. Maybe it did smell like bacon, but it was a bit of a rude comment because, well, it was just that. You imagine someone calling you smelly, someone calling you smelled like bacon. Alfred Hampson kind of put his head down. He knew the place of the lions in the village. He knew how revered the lions were. He wasn't about to stand up for himself. No way, sir. He wasn't going to. And he would sharpen their swords, for free, of course. Those lions had come by quite a bit, and they never had to pay for sword sharpening. I suppose they were just reaping the benefits of Alfred Hampson being a follower of the way of the good lion, and thinking that that was what he was supposed to do, acts of service for them, or to them. Anyways, William Strongbadger, he just wasn't having it. He was going away at working on his project, and he didn't like that. He came up to them and said, "Listen, I don't think that's right to treat him that way. He treats you with respect. Maybe treat him with respect." Huh! A badger boy telling a lion to be more respectful? What a terrible thing to say, said Lia through his barred fangs. "Oh, it's okay, son," Alfred Hampson said. "It's okay. I'm happy to serve the lions in the name of the good lion." Lugain said. "That's right. The good lion indeed." He laughed. Well, William felt like Alfred was getting bullied, and he didn't want that. He said, "You know, Lionel, I've seen you many times at my church before, but you always come in at the end. I think you should come in at the beginning sometime and hear a sermon." "A sermon?" said Lionel. "I don't need to hear sermons. I'm a lion. I'm saved after all, am I?" "You are only saved if you believe on the name of the good lion," William said. And with that, Lionel let out a little bit of a growl. "I am saved because I am a lion," he said. "The good lion is my God, not yours." And William said, "That is where you're wrong. The good lion himself came, and he said that he is the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through him." Ha! The good lion cannot come as a lion. He is a spirit, not a body. "Oh, see, that is where you're wrong," William said. "He did come as a lion, and he is the way. He is the truth. You cannot please the good lion without believing in him, that he came and that he died and he rose again." Oh, with that, Lionel roared, "You speak blasphemy. I pleased the good lion through the law. You don't have the law." And William Strongbadger said, No, I do have it. It is our law. It belongs to the good lion, and he gives salvation and blessing to whom he chooses, and he's the one who followed the law, not me, and I trust in him, and that makes it so that I please him. With that, Alfred Hampson snorted. We should end this conversation. Where is this even going?" Lionel crossed his arms and said, "So, little boy, do you mean to tell me that my mother, Lois, the most wonderful of all women ever, if you saw her, you would think she's the most beautiful lion and the most wonderful lion. She fed the poor every single day, pots of broth and soup giving away. She was wonderful. She always showed up to the synagogue on the Sabbath. She always worshipped in the name of the true lion. She kept every single one of the commandments perfectly. Are you telling me, little boy, that she is not with the Father? Is that what you're telling me, that she does not please the true lion because she didn't believe that he had come?" And with that, William said very boldly, "Sir, I am not saying such. Do not take my words. Do not listen to what I'm saying and based on where your mother is in eternity because of what I'm saying. I am a child. Listen to what the good lion says in his word, that he is the way, the truth, and the life, and no one except those that believe in him will have everlasting life. Condemnation is upon all, regardless if they're a lion or if they're a pig. But if you believe in the good lion, then he saves you because of his work because of his death, he saves you. And so do not take what I say. Take what he says. Let him be your witness. Let him be your truth. And with that, Lionel Lionson put his paw on William Strongbadger's head, and his claws were out, so it hurt a little bit, and said, "Boy, you know nothing of what you speak. I will never submit to some lion. I only submit to the true lion, and he has not come. But when he does, he will set this all straight, including you." And with that, Lionel Lionson and Ligain and Liaf left. William then fell down and sunk into a chair and said, "Oh, that was terrible. I can't believe that." And Alfred put his own hoof on William's shoulder and said, "Son, that was incredible. The spirit of the good lion was upon you. Oh, to hear what you were saying is truth I've never heard before. But it is the truth, and I've read it all in the way book. Oh, no one comes to him except by believing in the good lion. You said it so plainly. You said it so well. Oh, the lions are not exempt just because they're lions, are they? No," William said. "All have sinned and fall short of the glory of the good lion." And well, the day ended pretty quickly. Alfred sent William home, and William, he met up with Luke Lionsmane again. But before that, William Strongbadger had another sit down by his father, Thomas, who, of course, you know, he's the pastor of their church. And, well, you can probably guess, after their little confrontation, Lionel Lionson paid a visit to William's house and to William's father and explained the whole ordeal. And in quite an angry roar, Lionel had basically told Pastor Thomas, that he was not coming back to that church, but that church had lost his blessing. And while you might be thinking, well, isn't that a good thing? Because now he won't be collecting the silver and they can use it for other things. Well, you're probably thinking that. But Thomas and the elders, they certainly weren't. Because again, they wanted to support the lions at all costs. They believed that they were commanded to, even though they weren't. Regardless, Thomas expressed how disappointed he was in William and that he was going to think about how to properly disciple his son, that he couldn't believe the path that he was going on, that he would confront a lion. What kind of animal would do that? Anyways, that's how that conversation went. It was kind of drab. William was a little upset by it, but of course, what was he going to say? He wanted to honor and respect his father, but he felt torn. His conviction was that, well, you know his conviction. He acted on it, of course, when he confronted Lionel Lionson. But that's the resolve of that. Lionel decided that he wasn't going to come back. Of course, it isn't the resolve of the issue. The elders, specifically Duncan Duckbill, he was going to have his say. Something was going to happen, and we'll get to that in future chapters. However, for now, let's put a pin in that. And William Strongbadger met up with Luke Lionsmane once again in the evening after supper to discuss their plans about their sword practice team for Saturday. And Luke had brought his sister with them, Larissa, who was also a very skilled swordsman. Now, Larissa, she wasn't following the way of the good lion like Luke and William was, but she was still a very nice lion and was very friendly and was willing to join them on Saturday and help teach the sword lessons. And she was excited for the idea. After discussing that a bit more, William told Luke about the confrontation he had with Lionel Lionson. Luke said that he was sorry that a lion regardless if he follows the way of the good lion, should not act that way or speak that way. But that he said that it's probably an unfortunate result of the church. The church is teaching this doctrine, and so the lions are wanting to abuse it, or at least some of them. But not all of them are like that, he says. And besides, you know the truth. Spiritually, he's not even a lion. William scratched his fur. He's not a lion? No, Luke said. Neither was I. You see, the way book, the Good Lion, says that a lion is not a lion outwardly, but one that is inwardly. If you follow the Good Lion, that's what makes you a true lion. That's what the word says. So just because he's a descendant of Abraham doesn't mean he's following the faith of Abraham. In fact, the way book says that he's grafted out, like I was. I once wasn't a lion, but now I am, because I have faith in the Good Lion. And you, William Strongbadger, you weren't born a lion, but now that you follow the Good Lion, he sees you as one. You're one of his own child, his own brethren. Wait, so, William said. He was puzzled for a second. Are you trying to tell me that Luke Lionsmane interrupted him. Yeah, William Strongbadger. The way book of the Good Lion tells us that you, even though you're a badger, because you follow the Good Lion, that you are a lion. William stood up straight. He looked at the stripes on his fur, and obviously he wasn't a lion outwardly, but he sure felt like one on the inside. And then he said to his friend Luke, I'm a lion, bro.